Welcome to Page to Screen, the podcast where Nikki and Christina discuss books that were turned into movies and films that were adapted from books. As always, we do remind you that spoilers lay ahead. Now, we invite you to decide with us the age-old question, which is better, the book or the movie?
Hey everybody, welcome back to Page to Screen. Joining me as always is my favorite gumshoe, Christina.
I am here with my favorite toon, Nikki.
Oh, look at us. Detectives in training.
Yeah, see?
Yeah. I feel like Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen right now. Like we're gonna solve a mystery in our big trench coats.
I want a trench coat.
Oh my god, Michi, we should have bought some for this.
Oh, I want one now. I saw one online actually the other day on H&M, but it was like oversized. So it kind of made the model look like she's three tiny little models with one sticking out with like their head out at the top, you know?
I thought you were going to say it made them look like they were going to try and sell you like counterfeit watches.
Oh, I wish. Like Got Mick on RuPaul's Drag Race. I want one of those.
Gotta watch. How are you doing today, Christina?
I am doing wonderful. How are you?
I am on the fence about my feelings about my choice for this.
So
book.
if you had a thought bubble, it would be very complicated to read.
It would be very cloudy. Yeah, very, very cloudy. Oh God.
Well, I think we're ready to talk about our subject matter today, which is, it starts with the novel Who Censored Roger Rabbit, a 1982 novel written by Gary K. Wolfe, following the detective Eddie Valiant, who is hired by the cartoon known as Toons, Roger Rabbit, to discover the reason behind his sabotaged career. But the investigation takes a turn when Roger is murdered. Surprise me.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
Which leads...
Spoiler.
And it leads Eddie even deeper into toon corruption.
I don't know what I was getting us into when I picked this. I have seen the movie. Like this is like, I think everybody at one point has had to have seen the movie or knows what Roger Rabbit looks like, knows what Jessica Rabbit looks like. Wowzers. Like, I don't know what to say about this. It made me rethink everything I knew about the characters from that film by reading this book because it is has nothing to do with what I saw on screen.
No, for sure. I mean, this one echoes back to probably the Die Hard episode.
Yeah.
That the book, you can see where they took some of the ingredients from the book, like, oh, this is a good idea, and made it into a movie, but they tossed out so much. Yeah. And the biggest part that's completely different is the tone. The tone of this book is, you know, at the other end of the spectrum from the movie.
It is very dark. It's
extremely dark.
Classic detective mystery.
I liked it. The noir aspect of it, I really dug.
I think the thing I kept wanting to envision it in the 1940s like the movie is. And I have a feeling that it's not supposed to be set in the 40s. Did you have that feeling when you were reading this?
No, yeah, it's weird because it kind of feels like it's modern times. And of course, it's, you know, the 80s. It's the early 80s. So that's like more of, I'm sure he probably started writing it in the late 70s. So it's like that 70s modern times, but everything is more on par with the kind of Dashiell Hammett noir films of the 30s and the 40s.
Yeah. It's just like a weird hodgepodge of...
It's a mixed bag, for sure.
And I think, like, while I wish there had been more of a defined time period for me, just because, you know, I want to see, like the Maltese Falcon sort of, like, femme fatale, all of this stuff, all these people in one room and everyone's finger pointing. But at the same time, it's like, oh, we're going to a phone booth. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. What is I get, like, what? Okay. Like, just kind of confused.
No, and I don't want to, necessarily like jump to the end, but that's exactly what I'm about to do. It's got all of the elements of those movies where, you mentioned the Maltese Falcon. So this has the MacGuffin of the teapot. The teapot shows up constantly where everybody wants it, but you're not exactly sure why. It's got the femme fatale of Jessica Rabbit, but you're waiting for that last scene, just like in the Maltese Falcon or the Thin Man, where everybody's having the dinner party or in one room, and the main detective breaks it all down for both the individuals in the room and for the audience, and points at the person who did it all. And it doesn't really have that kind of payoff. If anything, when you find out what happened, it's like, wait, I'm sorry, what?
I was so confused, and then I thought about it after I finished reading, because I was actually really upset by how I was really upset by the reveal, because I was like, are you kidding? I've read this entire book, and this is how you treat me? And then I thought about it, and I was like, that was so absurd. Only a toon could have thought of something like this. And then I was like, maybe I don't hate it so much. I was like, this is so cartoony of a reveal that it just didn't. It could have only have happened in this book. There's no way that it could have happened on screen either, which is probably why the whole teapot situation doesn't even translate to the film.
Well, I think, why don't we explain a little bit of some of the stuff that happens, and then if you want to explain the reveal,
oh my God,
I will have much respect for you.
Yeah. I think what we should mention first of all, the big difference is that Roger he's not the main character in his own cartoon, and it's not even a film cartoon, it is a comic book, like a comic strip in the newspaper. So rather than him being filmed, everything is photographed. When the cartoon characters in the book speak, they all have speech bubbles like they're in a comic, except for
which I loved.
I love that too. I love the idea of. I would love to see that in the real world. You know what it made me think of? You know when you go to Universal Studios Islands of Adventure, and you go through the toon landing part of it, and they have all those speech bubbles that you can stand under? That's what I thought of when they were talking about that. I was like, oh, I've done that. I've had a speech bubble.
I know. I love the word balloons, but the only one that makes me nervous is that there's also like the thought balloons.
Yeah.
And Lordy, I do not want to have a thought balloon. Like,
yeah, no.
I don't have a poker face. I don't need a balloon ratting me out too.
It's just like you need one of the Donald Duck ones where it's all censored. It's just a bunch of like asterisks and like pound signs.
With my potty mouth, it would be like half Donald Duck or Daffy Duck.
Yeah. What do they call Jessica and the ones without the speech bubbles? Were the humanoid?
Yeah, so she's humanoid, and some of the toons have figured out how to repress the bubbles from basically coming out. Oh, that sounds gross.
It does sound gross. It's kind of like when you it's kind of like when you go abroad for a week and come back and try to act all proper, so you talk with a British accent.
Oi, I don't know what you talking about.
I said proper.
Burn.
Ooh, Harry Potter.
Oi, are you having a laugh?
You must have been overseas lately.
Think you're funny, innit?
Innit? Careful, spot of tea.
Speaking of tea kettle.
So yeah, that's basically where we're at with Roger. He's still with baby Herman, but he's like the second string guy. Like Herman's the funny guy and Roger's just like the fall guy, you know? Mm-hmm. And then the other weird thing about them is that they can create doppelgangers, which I don't know how I would have reacted when they. Okay, let backtrack a little. They make doppelgangers, which is they can use the power of their minds to create a secondary version of themselves to handle like dangerous stunts or, to do the stuff they don't want to do. Like I would make a doppelganger to clean my apartment and walk my dog and make dinner and run.
The doppelganger it was a concept that I understood, but a concept that I had a hard time being okay with.
Yeah. I don't think if I were a toon I'd be able to create a doppelganger, especially after Eddie Valiant meets Jessica's doppelganger and watches it disintegrate. I nightmare-inducing paragraph about her lips falling off and then her eyes and her limbs, and it was just it's like, I guess in my mind it was kind of like if you pushed a mannequin down a flight of stairs and all the body parts scattered everywhere, except
it's like Mr.
real.
Potato Head but liquid.
Yeah. And then it just like poof is gone. No.
Yeah.
I could not. I say I would like to have a doppelganger to clean my apartment, but then I would have to clean up after my doppelganger explodes in my apartment. No,
having a doppelganger, that leads down like a Black Mirror episode. I don't need it.
Yeah, it's I don't know how to be okay with it. But I'm not a toon, and this is a book, so it's not something I ever have to really worry about. But it's kind of like, have you seen the videos of the weird animatronic Spider-Man that they're putting in at Disneyland?
No.
Okay, I'm not okay with that either. And of the two things I'm talking about right now, only one of them is real and in the real world right now, and it's that Spider-Man who's gonna have an AI moment and kill us all. I know it. I'm gonna send you a video. I'm scared. I showed it to Jesse and I was like, I don't trust this. I don't trust this robot. But I wouldn't.
Well, I don't want to go like too. We're skewing out of this.
Yeah.
But did you see the video of the Transformers robot toy?
No.
It's both extremely cool and also it's going to kill us all.
See, trust no robot, trust no doppelganger. But that's the weird thing. You can't tell which is which.
The idea of the doppelganger just kind of doesn't make sense, where you've got the toons and they are not, they are able to be killed like humans. They still have those, more mortality threats, but at the same time, they're able to do such extraordinary things that the idea of a doppelganger being needed by a toon kind of doesn't make sense.
And that's the thing that I think threw me too, was the knowledge that toons can die like humans in this book. It just, I don't think it made a lot of sense to me at first, but I mean, I don't know. It's still, now that I'm talking about it, it still doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because it's true. These toons can do some amazing creative things. Like, you've got Roger who can like tie he at one point, doesn't he like tie back his ears in the book so he can pretend to be an old lady and go to his own funeral? He can do that.
No, it's his aunt. He plays his aunt.
He can do that, but he can't survive, being pushed down a flight of stairs or something like that. He'll still get injured like a person would. It's just
right.
It's just a weird situation that they put them in for this book. From there, like, you go, because I don't know where to go from here with the doppelgangers and the speech bubbles.
No, I was down. I was down for the storytelling with this detective going around, and it doesn't have the same. It's weird. It's almost like we should start with like the movie and then go to the book, but here we are. So it's weird because it doesn't have the same kind of action. It doesn't have the gags or the comedy that the movie does. There's not much, action adventure at all. It really is just one of those William Powell detective movies where he's just walking around talking to people. And you get these characters and they're all kind of not telling the truth. So he's going back and forth between people. You've got Roger's doppelganger, because Roger's dead. He's dead. And I was very surprised when that happened. Yeah. So it's just his doppelganger who... Yeah. And like you mentioned, Jessica's doppelganger only exists for a few minutes, but somehow Roger is able to create a doppelganger that will exist for 2 days. Yeah. So everything happens within about 3 days in the book, but 2 of those days is the actual investigation. And there's this chick who's a photographer. So there's her. There are the DeGreasy brothers. There's Jessica, there is Roger, and then at the center of it is this weird tea kettle that everybody wants, and they're not too sure where it is. Roger's not exactly telling Eddie Valiant the truth, and then it all boils down to figuring out exactly who killed Roger, and for a good portion of it, it looks like perhaps Jessica did. Then... It's revealed what actually happened. If you want to take over this part.
I feel like I should just say it. I should just say what happened because it
just get it out.
He's killed by a magic genie. Now go back. Yeah, you heard that right. Now go back and listen to what Christina said. There's the DeGreasy brothers. There's Jessica. There's more than one murder in this. There's one of the DeGreasy brothers is murdered, and, Jessica's acting weird and Baby Herman's acting weird. And there's an art thief situation. This whole thing felt like I was playing like Grand Theft Auto and I kept having to do these side missions just to finish the game. And then I finished the game and they were like, the genie did it. And you're like, I'm sorry, you cannot add a genie. I haven't met the genie.
Exactly. And I actually liked the book until the genie thing.
Same.
I enjoyed it and trying to figure out who it was because I had a bad feeling about the photographer lady from the very start. And then when it turned out that she had the negatives, or she was able to orchestrate the negatives, like going around to the different people of Jessica and basically her Marilyn Monroe calendar moment, doing some pornography kind of stuff. I thought it was going to be her. And then when it turns out it's a genie, it just makes the whole thing less fun. Like the thing that's fun about these movies and detective stories is that you get to kind of guess. And even if your guess is incorrect, it's still fun to go back and think about all of the hints that were there that perhaps you didn't catch. But then when it turns out that it's someone you haven't met, someone that you weren't even aware could be a thing, it just makes it like, okay.
Yeah, it felt like incomplete. It felt like he didn't know how to end it. And he was like, well, here's a genie. Because honestly, I wanted the woman photographer to have killed DeGreasy. And then I wanted the other DeGreasy brother to have killed Roger.
That makes sense.
Because he thought because in his mind, he was like, Roger killed my brother. That's what I wanted. Mm-hmm. And that's not what I got. And I was because then the reason behind why the genie killed at all is just it's kind of convoluted and kind of like, this is how you want it to end for Roger. Right. This is what happened. Yeah, so there's this the magic genie lives inside of a tea kettle. I feel so weird explaining this. I feel like I have to be drunk to explain this. Which the DeGreasy brothers, who are from overseas apparently, they're, spoiler alert.
Those foreigners.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. The DeGreasys are toons. But the whole time in the book, they made a wish with this magic teapot to become humans and have their own toon syndicate, which they get. And you're only allowed 3 wishes because that's how genies work. And at some point, the genie decides he's tired of giving people wishes, and the next time he sees a person who wants a wish, he's going to shoot them and kill them with this ancient musket. And Roger, unbeknownst to him, has stolen this from the set of an Alice in Wonderland. This gets so, I'm so mad about it. I'm getting so confused just talking about it, and I have it written down, the order. The teapot goes missing in the bottom of the ocean because the only way to kill the genie is to drown it. But somebody put it in an airtight container. Somebody pulls it up. That genie strangles the guy because he kills him because he wishes for gills. And then the genie, leaves him on a boat. He can't breathe in air. Then it ends up on a film set. I know! It ends up on a film set. Roger ends up stealing it. Roger, unbeknownst to him, has made 2 wishes on this teapot accidentally. But the teapot's always been in the kitchen, so the genie was never able to kill him. I was like, I'm sorry. That's your reasoning why I saw you hop. You said it in the book. You hop around in your tea kettle. Don't lie to me. Until Roger makes one last wish accidentally, not knowing that there's a genie in his tea kettle, which he's just been brewing tea in. And he does get shot and killed. And then it's all like, who gets the tea kettle now? Blah, blah, blah. I hated this so much. So much.
I was so on board with the book, okay? I was so kind of enjoying it, and I thought it was pretty neat, and part of me already knowing what the movie is like was actually getting a little mad at the movie because this is Who Censored Roger Rabbit. That's the title. And it's a lot darker. It's a lot more adult. So I thought, yeah, who did censor Roger Rabbit? Disney. And, I'm having that kind of moment. And then when the ending happened, I re-listened to it this morning because I listened to an audiobook of it. So this morning, I actually went back and re-listened to the portion where everything's kind of explained, thinking, well, I was driving home from work, so perhaps I was just in a mood or something, and I'm doing my makeup, listening to it, no, it's still convoluted.
Yeah,
it's not me.
The genie story, like I said, I wrote down how the genie traveled person to person to get to Roger, and I was like, what? I bought the book. I don't understand what's happening. And then I think that part of the book was not good. The part of the book with the art theft and the reselling of prints, that was an interesting side story.
I liked that too. Me too.
But I wish that had tied to the larger case at hand, and it didn't. I mean, everything sort of led to the one DeGreasy brother who was murdered, and the main thing was on the day that Roger is murdered, the DeGreasy brother is murdered. So it's who did what, where, why, how. And everyone says that they saw Roger leave the DeGreasy's house, but the doppelganger Roger was I was buying suspenders. I don't know why I said it like that. Wear suspenders.
The thing about it is just... there's a whole thing about writers using tropes and how that's lazy, but tropes can be really fun.
Yeah.
And between the DeGreasys, Roger, Baby Herman, Jessica, the photographer chick, I'm sorry, I don't
remember her name either.
Okay, the photographer chick
it down.
So all of them are characters that I've met 1,000 times before, and it's just kind of fun to have a play on it, to have a play on that type of story. But the thing that's not fun is to have this secret thing going on where the reader doesn't get the fun of who did what, the whodunit. And I get where sometimes it's the subversion of a story that people like, where it's not going to be anything that you expect, but to me it feels lazy at times. And that's what this one is, where it's an easy out, and it makes me think of Knives Out and Ryan Murphy.
Don't say that.
No, in Ryan Johnson's Ryan Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm questioning myself. Okay. In Ryan Johnson's Knives Out, he does the whodunit story, but subverts it where None of them did. And there's other stuff going on, obviously, but you find that out very early on in the movie. It's a spoiler alert for Knives Out. So you find that out 25, 30 minutes in. So the rest of the movie is still very fun because there's other stuff going on. But just think about, had you watched Knives Out and that scene doesn't play until the very end, it would have felt so just anticlimactic.
Yeah. And that's, if they had omitted the genie from the book, I think it would have played out better. Definitely if it were accidental, because that could happen. Yeah. Roger's weird because
Roger's an idiot.
Roger's real dumb. Because and he's very dedicated to Jessica, which was very sweet. Even though she is not a nice lady. Don't believe the hype. Not good. She is awful. She's absolutely awful in this. And that upset me too. I was like, everything I know about Jessica's love for Roger, where she's like, he makes me laugh. No, she hates him.
I've been trying so hard to keep that for the movie, but you let the cat out of the bag. So with the movie, that's one of my favorite parts is she does love him. Yeah. And the things that you know about him in the movie from Jessica's perspective, he can't drive, he's good in bed, and he makes her laugh. So done.
Yeah. She doesn't care about much else.
No. And the Jessica in the book is complicated, but you're wanting that femme fatale thing to either she did it, she's the ultimate villain, which you don't get, or she actually really does love Roger, and you don't get that either.
Yeah, I think that was my biggest issue with her is that and that's why I pegged her to be the killer of Roger. Mm-hmm, from the beginning, before because I knew that at some point somebody had to be a human, a toon pretending to be a human, just because of the way the movie is based. Spoiler alert for the movie. But I had that in the back of my mind, but the way they kept describing Jessica and the way she was treating Roger, I was like, she killed somebody in this book. She had to have. And then when you find out that no, she's just an awful person, I was gutted because in the book, she basically just bounces from whoever has money to whoever has money and whoever can get her out of whatever trouble she's in. She throws herself at everybody, and that broke my heart.
Yeah.
Ugh. Oh, God, it made me so mad.
There's a line that I do like that's kind of, I think it's at the beginning, the very beginning, that I don't know, I just really appreciated it, where they were talking about exactly what you just said, where it's toons that are pretending to be people successfully, but they mention the rumor that the Marx Brothers and Mae West were toons, and I don't know why, but that had me rolling because I thought, I legit believe that too.
Yeah. Oh, I could definitely see Mae West being a cartoon. A waist like that? Mm-mm. Yeah. Lady, please. Definitely the Marx Brothers, too. Don't even, Groucho. I see you. Get the dip.
You know who Baby Herman reminded me of,
Who?
by the way? Mickey Rooney.
I can see that 100%. 100%.
Because Mickey Rooney was this, young actor who looked like a baby, and he was just fucking all these chicks constantly. Yeah. And I'm I think Baby Herman is just a Mickey Rooney character.
A little bit shorter, but not by much.
No, and the very disturbing thing about Baby Herman, because I don't know, there's something about Baby Herman that I just love, but I don't know, the problem with Baby Herman isn't really Baby Herman, but Baby Herman sleeping with all of these women supposes that there's all of these older women cool with fucking a baby.
Yeah. That's...
Ooh,
yeah. Now that we grossed everybody out. But what did you think of the other reveal? The murder of Rocco DeGrisi?
Yeah. That one, okay, so Roger is hiding a little bit more than even we've talked about. That one honestly makes sense to me.
Same.
It was not what I was expecting, but when it's revealed, it makes sense.
Yeah. So, spoiler alert. Roger created his doppelganger before he died to create an alibi for him. So all the suspenders that he was buying was to convince everybody that he wasn't at the DeGracy home, because Roger was not supposed to die at the hand of a trapped genie. I hate that so much. I hate it so much that Roger died at the hand of a genie.
You know what you know what it feels like as we're talking about it? I don't know why this is popping up into my head, but you know in Watchmen, when the graphic novel, not the movie,
Okay.
when it's the squid, the big giant squid.
Yes.
Okay. So in the TV show, the HBO TV show Watchmen, they reference the squid and it works. And there's still like squids falling down, like raining. And it just works. But I can understand why Zack Snyder, when he made the movie back, 10 years ago or whenever it is, was like, yeah, I can't do a squid as the villain in this movie. Like, it's not. I understand why a movie maker would say like this isn't gonna work. The fact that it's a genie, it's just so weird, and it's very 90s. Like, what was up with the popularity of genies in the 90s?
I don't know. Yeah, because that's when Aladdin came out, and that was a big hit for genies.
That's the Shaq movie.
Oh yeah. I don't want to screw it up because I know that I still believe that there were the two different titles. Kazam or Shazam?
Oh, dang. Now I don't know.
Shah or Ka? Someone tell us.
Steel. It was Steel.
Steel, yes. My favorite genie movie. Steel.
Got it.
For somebody that we get to know throughout the entire book, to have them die by genie was so... because you kind of grow with Roger's doppelganger, and he's kind of just like a sweet buffoon, just like he is in the movie. And it's like, when Valiant gives him that detective's badge...
I love that part.
And he's just so overwhelmed and just so happy. And it happens after he hears Jessica saying so many mean things about him, too.
Yeah.
And it was just like, this is very heartwarming. Then you get to the end of the book where Roger's like, oh, yeah, I was going to frame you for murder. I'm sorry. Where's the detective badge? Because I want to take it back. Now you're the bad guy.
And, you know, the character of Roger Rabbit is pretty close to the movie. He's, like, obnoxious. He's big.
Yeah.
He means well until he doesn't. Like, he is... And even when he doesn't, it kind of feels like It's Always Sunny Charlie Kelly, like, killing somebody. It's not like he... You know what I mean?
Oh, my God, yes.
It's not like he is just this, like, evil murderer. It's just... There's a screw loose.
Yeah, well, definitely. And they say that...
A few.
They say that a lot. You know what he reminded me of? Especially when you get to the ending of it, was very much Mary Astor in The Maltese Falcon.
Yes, very much.
Like, I spent the entire book thinking that Jessica was the femme fatale, and maybe it was Roger. Because you get to the end of the book and you have spent all this time with someone who's gotten very chummy with the detective, just like, you know, in The Maltese Falcon. Like, except there's not this, like, weird love relationship between the two of them. Eddie's still very much not a fan of Toons. But he develops a really good friendship, and he really cares about Roger. And he wants to get Roger off. Like, that was his whole thing with the genie. Stupid genie. I hate saying that. The whole genie. But you get to the end of the book and you find out that Roger admits to, spoiler alert, Roger had killed Rocco DeGracy because he thought that, well, first of all, Rocco kept promising him his own comic strip, never followed through, because that was a wish from the genie. And he also stole back Jessica from Roger, because Roger accidentally wished for her to love him. stupid Genie. Stupid Genie. And Roger says that he went over to that house and killed him. So everyone who said they saw him was 100% correct. They all saw Roger leave.
Right.
And then his doppelganger says that his plan was to plant the gun at Eddie Valiant's house so that Eddie would have to take the fall for the murder of Rocco DeGreasy. And that's where I'm like, Roger is the evil. Roger is the femme fatale. Roger is the one who got under our skin, made us feel all warm and fuzzy with that whole badge situation and how bad Jessica treated him. And then he was going to frame Eddie Valiant for murder.
Yeah.
Girl. Get out of here.
No, and there's something about, and I'm fine with magic or genies or, however weird you want to get with something, but I just wish it was hinted at earlier more than just it's a teapot. Like perhaps, I don't know. There's a way to maybe sneak in the genie stuff earlier on. So it's less of a what the fuck moment when you actually get to it. But it's just not there.
If at the beginning of the book you had found out that Eddie had investigated that murder of the guy with the gills or something,
Yeah, sure.
If there was something that connected it so that when you finally find out that the teapot is a magic lamp, it wasn't so much a hold up, stop. It was more of a, oh, this relates back to that thing I already knew about.
Right.
Yeah, because throwing it in there last minute is just, it left me speechless and not in that good way.
Yeah.
More in a, I think I bought the wrong book. And see, I'm so glad that you had a genie in your book too. Because I bought the book on Amazon and I showed Christina what it says in the inside of my book. Under the copyright page, my book definitely says, this ebook is a work of fiction. I bought the book. I'm holding the book. It's in my hands. It is a physical book. And when I was reading it, especially when I got to the genie part, 100% convinced I had the wrong book.
That's just a cheap print job.
It was it's very cheap. But I was paranoid through reading the entire thing after that, where I was like, I made a huge mistake. I'm going to have to buy a new book.
I don't know. Like, there's something like very charming about this book that, we recently did Ready Player One, and it's clearly an author and their love letter to all the stuff that they like. And it's easy to read a little bit about the author here, Gary K. Wolfe, where he was just super into comics and science fiction and, all this pop culture stuff. So Who Censored Roger Rabbit is this love letter to not only comics, but this type of Dashiell Hammett storytelling. And I really love that. Like, I love, like, I don't know, like, one thing just comes to mind, like, Quills. Like, that story, it's written like, the Marquis de Sade or something. Like, the people who actually get the idea of what they love and just recreate it instead of just, like, a specific, I'm just name-dropping it constantly, like Ready Player One, I really appreciate. But where it loses me is the genie, because the thing that's awesome about those detective stories is that you can follow along. I mean, even freaking Scooby-Doo, like, it's always the farmer or the guy who owns the house, but he was there at the first 5 minutes. So you can follow them and try to figure out who did it.
Yeah, I feel like even though this is based in a reality we'll probably never see. We might. You never know. It could happen.
Nikki's holding out for cartoons living in her world with her.
I'm a cartoon supporter, you guys. Come stay at my place.
Hashtag justice for toons.
What the book does really well at the pre-Genie, PG book is it grounds it in this reality. You have a base reality. And that's what all those all the detective novels, detective films, everything, it feels real. Even one of my favorite scenes in the book is the Dick Tracy moment.
Yeah.
You know, where he gets to meet Dick Tracy, and Dick Tracy's kind of like this celebrity, but he's also, you know, a toon. And when you look at Dick Tracy comics too, based in some sort of reality.
Right.
As soon as you enter the Genie into it, the reality that you've created is gone.
Right.
Because there's nothing to tie it to what we already know. It's just, it threw a wrench in the entire book, which made it seem like, I felt like at that point, might as well make it a choose your own adventure story once the Genie shows up and let me decide what happens next. Because if we're just throwing genies in, why not throw everything in? And then the mummy shows up from the mummy. Okay, cool. Let me pick one.
Okay, we haven't been talking shit, but we've been giving some criticism about the Genie. Let me just say this to you real quick. Had we ended our Eat, Pray, Love journey with she wakes up and a genie had made her imagine all of her white privilege, that's actually a better book, right?
It really is. If we take the Genie from Who Framed Roger Rabbit and we put it into Eat, Pray, Love, and I think maybe Eat, Pray, Love might not be last on our book list. I mean, it's still down at the bottom, but maybe not last.
I did want to say one thing about the audiobook that I really liked, which is that the guy who voices it for the voice of Roger Rabbit, he's clearly doing a Jimmy Stewart type voice. And I really liked that because I thought that it was like flipping the script on the movie Harvey, which is a personal favorite of mine. I love Harvey. And that makes it where it's a guy who's talking to a rabbit, but it's a real rabbit, but the rabbit is Jimmy Stewart instead of the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I love that. I'm going to have to check that out.
I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, I have to.
You should.
I really need to do more audiobooks. The only audiobook I've done so far for the podcast has been Dracula. Which I love.
It's one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to be honest.
I've really loved it. I really need to get back. I was hoping that you were going to say that in the audiobook he does it just like in the movie. But that'd be weird because Roger doesn't have a speech impediment in the book.
Yeah. And I think we're almost ready to transition over to the movie, but I mean, there's no like replicating Charles Fleischer. He's one of a kind.
Yeah. I am definitely ready to talk about the movie because I want to tell you all right now, as we're getting into the movie, I love this movie. I've lived for this movie. I have a lot of guilty pleasure films that I'll watch. One of my favorites is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band starring the Bee Gees.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I own the album. It is amazing. I must have seen that movie like 100 times too.
Yeah, but the album is different than the movie. I love the album too, but the movie I've seen probably twice.
You haven't seen it enough.
Right.
You haven't seen it enough. That's the problem. Come on, you haven't seen it. Shut up and watch it again. I don't know what to tell you.
You're getting violent over here.
Yeah, I am. Maybe I'm turning into Roger over here. You don't know. Frame for murder. Oh no, a genie.
No fair.
I also, my other guilty pleasure movie is, South Park, Bigger, Larger, and Uncut. I will put that on when there's nothing else to watch. That's what I do.
I do know that about you. And don't you also like Buckaroo Banzai?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. Listen, if it's terrible, I'll watch it. But if it's great, I'll watch it too. I have no taste filter. I'll just watch anything, except for Battlefield Earth. But that's another story. Anyways, this
so random.
This movie, there's just something about it that makes me so happy, and I wonder if it's because, when I was in middle school, let's go back a little bit, and I was getting ready for school in the morning, Disney Channel, the old Disney Channel used to show like the old Mickey Mouse clubs, and then in between the commercial breaks, they'd show the old Walt Disney animation shorts. And one of the first things that I can remember seeing was the old, Alice shorts, which was the little girl interacting with the cartoons. And
which is super cool. Super cool.
Especially for that time.
Exactly.
Like, to see that happening, it was just like, it blew, like, it must have blown everybody's minds at the time when it happened. You know, and then to even seeing it, you know, and I'm used to, you know, computer animation, all that crap. That's crap. But I appreciated what it was and how difficult it must have been. And I think that really helps solidify my love for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, because watching it from beginning to end, you understand, even without going into the complete details of how insane everything was with what they did for this, just watching it at face value with animation and actors. It's amazing. It blows my mind that this is something that was created in the 80s. Like, it feels so ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And also, just to go back to what you said about Ready Player One and it being like a love letter to, you know, 80s culture, this was also co-produced by Steven Spielberg. Another film where they just throw a bunch of stuff together. Wow. Well, Steven, I think I've seen it before.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So, Who Censored Roger Rabbit turns into Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's a 1988 film, which is, whether you like it or not, it's a technical marvel, and it's directed by Robert Zemeckis, starring Bob Hoskins. Roger Rabbit is voiced by Charles Fleischer, who is also on set actually performing as him, and then Christopher Lloyd is our big bad. One of the big differences is that it's not maybe modern times. Instead, it's set quite solidly in late 1940s Hollywood. It's still Eddie Valiant, and he's still assisting Roger Rabbit, but this time he's not dead, and instead he's framed for the murder of this really sweet, cute, quirky guy, Marvin Acme, who's the owner of Acme and also Toontown. Yeah. So the whole tone of it is a lot lighter. It's not as dark. It's got I will say, it has a very questionable PG rating. It's a PG where whatever rules they had set out in 1988 for PG movies were definitely being stressed.
It toes the line.
It does. It definitely tap dances, I'd say, on the line of PG.
There's it's like a divot, and they just nestled in.
Exactly. Yeah, and what's cool, you mentioned Steven Spielberg, is that there's just like so many, you know, we just did, 2 ago, Wizard of Oz, where it's kind of a clusterfuck of like all these different people working on it, and somehow it ends up being a masterpiece. And this one it's different. It's a lot of different people working on it in conjunction with each other. They all know that they're in it together, and it's interesting. I don't think that you will ever see a movie quite like this again. I mean, you even see stuff like right now between like Marvel and Sony fighting over certain properties. This is just like really cool. It was like the one time that you see Disney, Warner Brothers, all these different characters on screen together. You're seeing Eisner working with Spielberg. It's just it's super cool.
Yeah, this is, to date, it's still the only film that features Disney property and Warner Brothers property.
And unless Disney continues its path in buying absolutely everything that everybody loves, I don't think that you'll ever see it again. Listen, if you sat down like 16-year-old Christina and you're like, hey, guess what? What? All right, so Disney is going to own Marvel. Okay. And they're also going to own Star Wars. All right. Trent Reznor is going to score a Disney movie that was done by Pixar. It's coming out on Christmas Day. Okay, yeah, go fuck yourself. Like, I wouldn't believe you. So there is a probability that in perhaps like another 15 years, Disney owns Warner Brothers and makes a remake of this. I don't know what's going to happen, okay?
Yeah, Disney owns Warner Brothers, recreates this, and it features music by Cardi B. It's going to be great. Is this where we're going with this? Honestly,
never say never.
I would watch it. Don't even. I would definitely watch it. The Yosemite Sam is now played by Woody from Toy Story. I'm all of it. Let's bring it on. Although, actually, could you imagine technically what Who Framed Roger Rabbit would look like today if it was made today? Like,
It would be amazing.
I can't, oh my God, I just got chills thinking about it.
I know, me too.
Oh my goodness. And the other thing is, they could never do this again.
No.
Just price point alone, even back then, the only reason they were able to, get it pushed through is because they told them they could do it for like $30 million.
Nice.
It ended up being like $70 million to do this thing.
Yeah, it was creeping up between 30, 40, 50, and there's still no total when you account for press and all of the like push that they did afterwards. So you still don't even know like the total amount that it cost.
Yeah, it's crazy, and what I really like about the movie is that beginning to end, the storyline completes itself, and there is no genie. Spoiler alert, there's no genies. Although if they made it today, I'm sure Robin Williams' Genie would make an appearance in the movie. And that would make me laugh.
He can't be the one that kills everybody, though.
No. There is no villain better for this film than Judge Doom. Just the name.
No, he's a good villain, and I was scared by him when I was a kid, and he still creeps me out with his eyes.
Nightmares.
But, Tim Curry was up for the role.
Yeah.
And I find that to be, I love Christopher Lloyd, like, don't get me wrong, like, he's awesome, but Tim Curry sounds really interesting to me, too.
Well, I read the trivia about that, and apparently everyone found him too terrifying.
Which is funny because I don't know if, you probably know this, but he was supposed to also be Joker in the Batman animated series, and they again found him to be too scary.
I know. It's like, I find him scary, personally. Well,
we met him. He's a sweet man.
He's very sweet. He was definitely a very nice guy. He's not, there's not a scary bone in his body. He's very funny. But
he's very funny.
When he wants to be a villain, he can be
serves.
Yes. He understands the assignment. Let's put it that way. And I think that
the assignment.
I think that if Judge Doom had been, if they had taken the tone from the book but inserted Judge Doom, it would have had to have been Tim Curry. There's no way around that. But
actually, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
That is actually a perfect point. That he actually been in the book, like that character, and he's there maybe being like more of a good guy, and it turns out it was him the whole time. I would love that book. I would probably give it like 9 out of 10, but the Genie twist like doesn't make sense, but you're right. Like that more noir, dark kind of feel does kind of fit Tim Curry more. That's a good point.
Yeah, if they had kept it darker, it would have definitely been Tim Curry. But for what they were trying to achieve, I think it's for a young childhood me, and even today adult me, the scariness is fine at the level they kept it at. I can remember having very vivid nightmares of Judge Doom. Well, I'm sorry. The minute he gets run over,
yeah,
and then Roger's like, Eddie, look, and you turn around and it's just that wibbly wobbly arms. Oh no. Oh no, I'm good. You can please don't come back. Please don't inflate yourself and then have your eyes pop out. I'm good. I'm scared. I'm freaked. I'm done. How much do you think the casting was influenced by the fact that Robert Zemeckis was directing?
Oh, of course. Of course. And I don't have anything like bad about that. Like there are certainly some directors that abuse that, where they're just like constantly using the same actors over and over again.
Johnny Depp.
Honestly, I was thinking about Johnny Depp and Tim Burton. I am perfectly fine if he wants to use Christopher Lloyd again.
Yeah.
I mean, Christopher Lloyd is that weird, one of those weird actors that us 90s kids, he was in, Back to the Future and Addams Family and this movie. He's just like a staple.
Yeah. He can play any role, really, because he really gets into it, I feel like.
And speaking of, I think that's the reason why this movie works, is it's not only Christopher Lloyd, but also Bob Hoskins.
Yeah. Oh my God.
They're in it. They're buying it. They are full in. They don't care if they look silly. They are understanding of what they're making. They are believing the story, the characters. That makes such a huge difference, where you've got this really hard... I mean, nowadays I feel like it's almost... frequent how often actors have to be in green screen and acting to something that's not there. But in 1988, that wasn't the norm. And you've got these two actors that are just in it.
Yeah, they really... It reminded me a lot of, like, especially if you watch the special features, they have a making of sort of featurette situation, and that is also available to watch on Disney Plus. The film and the making of featurette are both available on Disney Plus. You'll see them acting to these rubberized puppet things.
Yeah.
And it reminded me a lot of the Muppet Christmas Carol, where
Christmas Carol.
Sir Michael Caine took everything in me not to do it in an accent, has said that he didn't treat the Muppets as puppets and talk to the humans who are doing everything. Even when when the cameras weren't rolling, he was talking to the Muppets themselves. And I feel like that's where the realistic properties come in, is that you also have you have them talking to what's supposed to be there, not acting against nothing, which really helped bring it in. And I think that the choice of actors really helped. Although I did read...
Yeah, you're about to say what?
First of all, Eddie Murphy turned down the role of Eddie Valiant, which I don't know. And then
I love Bob Hoskins as Eddie Valiant.
Same.
He is just so perfect, and there's only one person out of the list of people that they were considering that I thought, oh, dang, he would have been interesting too.
Bill Murray.
I feel like you're about to talk.
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray.
Well, did you read about what Bill Murray said about that?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So apparently they wanted Bill Murray for Eddie Valiant, and
he was number one.
Yeah, and neither of them could reach him. And then Bill Murray said that he was out somewhere on the street
in a coffee shop or something.
Yeah, and he was reading this interview with the cast of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and in it they said, "Oh well, our first choice was Bill Murray, but we couldn't reach him," and he just started screaming. I would too. But it's funny because I saw that I mentioned it to Jesse, and Jesse was like, "Oh my God, he would have been brilliant." And then I thought a little bit more about it, and I was like, he would. Don't get me wrong, he would definitely be brilliant about it. But there are very small scenes with just Bob Hoskins, especially when he gets the film developed. And, he's looking through all the Jessica and Marvin Acme stuff. And then he gets to the pictures from their vacation in Catalina.
I know.
And it is a very subtle, heartbreaking moment because it doesn't last very long. And you see him look across his desk at where his brother used to sit. And I tried to imagine both Eddie Murphy and Bill Murray doing that one scene. And I didn't feel the heart of it.
Yeah.
Whereas Bob Hoskins really drove home this, gut-wrenching moment.
Yeah, and, Bill Murray has proven himself as not only a comedic actor, but a dramatic actor. However, you're talking 1988 Bill Murray, not like nowadays Bill Murray. And there's little things like when, and It's when Eddie Valiant is talking about how his brother was killed by a toon, and he says that he had a piano dropped on his head.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because Bob Hoskins is deadpan. There is no comedy in his voice when he says it. He says it like it was a tragedy and a horror show. Whereas had you had Eddie Murphy or Bill Murray, I think that they would have played it more as a joke. And the way that is a funny line is, like I said, Bob Hoskins believes he's in this world. It's not funny. It's very serious. And if you have a comedic actor, I don't think that they play it that way.
Yeah, and I agree. I think if Bill Murray today were to meet Bill, like mash up with the Bill Murray of the 80s, and then they cast him in this, definitely could see him pulling off both sides of Eddie Valiant.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, I can't see anyone else doing this.
Agree.
It's just so... Bob Hoskins knows how to play that line, especially because Eddie Valiant hates toons. He doesn't want to be funny. He's very serious about what he does, and he thinks it's beneath him to pander to the toons at all. And I can't see Bill Murray being like, I hate toons. I'm sorry, you are a toon. I don't. Methinks you doth protest too much, sir. Because it really all comes to a head at the end when Eddie does his musical number, and he makes all the weasels die laughing because it's such a turn. It is how the genie should have been in the book. A turn that makes sense.
You can tell that Bob Hoskins had so much fun with that number too.
Oh yeah. That I have fun when he does that. Nose? That don't rhyme with walls. I love the weasels too. The weasels are so funny. The weasels are great. Every part of the movie has. It's one of those films too where it's like you can watch it and you find different pieces every time because there's just so much happening.
You know, the part that made me laugh this time around was when he goes to the club at the beginning. Well, not really the beginning, but like, you know, the first part of the movie. And when he orders Scotch on the Rocks. Oh. And it's the penguin from Mary Poppins, and he orders Scotch on the Rocks. And then the penguin's like, all right, like walks away. And then as he's walking away, he goes, and I mean ice. Yeah. And then he gets the drink, and there's actual rocks in the drink.
And he just goes, toons.
Toons.
I love.
I feel like I have to tell you something.
Uh-oh.
I don't love this movie the way that you do.
That's fine.
It's all right.
A lot of people don't.
It's all right.
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad. In fact, this is the fourth time I've watched it, and I made a joke to Carlos, my husband, that I watch this movie like once a decade, and he's like, you're not that old. And I said, well, actually I am that old because I saw it as a kid in the 90s. I watched it again as a teen, like probably 2007 or so. Watched it again with you when we first got married, so that's around like 2014, and I'm watching it now, 2021. And he was just like silent, like, oh shit, you are that old. But it's the truth of it. Like, it wasn't one that I had as a kid where I was like obsessed with it or really into it. It was fine, but it's still fun. And for being an hour and like 40, an hour and 50 minutes, it goes by really fast.
It does. The action in this, like you mentioned, the action in the movie is so much better than the action in the book because there is no action in the book.
Yeah.
And the newer characters that they introduce in the movie really benefit the original storylines of like what's actually happening. And I love Benny the Cab. You can't convince me otherwise that there's anything wrong with that. And I think that a lot of my, like I mentioned, I think a lot of my fascination with the movie as a whole is just not even focusing on it as a film, but as something that should be studied as a creative art piece, really.
And I am 100% down on that.
Yeah. Like, if you just look at it for the ingenuity of it, in the making of featurette, they show you some of the ways they made things work, because it's mind-boggling that we've really come so far, not just in animation, but in robotics. Like, you've seen those creepy MIT robots who can do backflips and stuff.
Yeah.
If you watch the making of featurette, they show how they made like a Winter Soldier like arm piece, really, that controls a tiny robot that just holds a cigar for baby Herman, so that they can control it off screen. And all I kept thinking was, like, just imagine what they could do today. How crazy it would have been. Like, it was mind-boggling to them then that they were able to do it. Today, I don't even know. I think today it might be too uncanny valley, though. Like, everything would be too realistic, and I don't think I could enjoy it. I'd be like, oh, no. I don't want to hang out with you guys. You're scaring me.
There's just so much fun, though, with this movie where they are mixing practical effects with the cartoons. So, like in the scene in the diner when Roger is smashing all the plates on his head, there really is that robot smashing plates. And it just gives it such a real vibe and effect, and it's like so cool for the actors on set to be able to see something like that, and it stokes their imagination. But then as a viewer, you're seeing it, and it's more believable that the tunes are actually there. And I think nowadays that would be a CGI plate, and just the difference between the practical effect of the plate and what I think would be nowadays a CGI plate, it makes a world of difference.
Yeah. I think that's why you get this really good reality. And I think that's why it's still so, even though the animation in it, you can tell isn't the
it can
greatest.
Be a little.
There are moments where you're watching it and you're like, okay, well, that's a little iffy there.
And it's see-through at times.
But it still holds up.
It's so weird. It does hold up, yeah.
Like, the one thing that I'll say really holds up is the ink and paint club scene where you know the waiter walks by him, and it was just like, oh, wait a minute, you just had a penguin walk by you, and then the octopus bartender.
I love the octopus bartender.
I feel like those two bits of animation really, really hold up today. Like, they didn't look fake and faded like some of the rest of it does.
Right.
And it's just that, and like the one piece of animation that I think could be touched up a little bit is when we first see Dumbo. You can definitely tell. Right. Well, if you look at the actors, you can definitely tell there's a bit of like a green screeny type of effect on them. But overall, the getting real life items interacting with these cartoons, like when Roger slams through the glass and the blinds. I told Jesse that if I could own any piece of film memorabilia, I want those blinds. I would.
Did you, by the way? I know that we both watched it when it first came out, but on Disney Plus, like a year ago, they released a show called Prop Culture, and each episode is on a different movie where it's this like guy, and he's like got these props, and he's
got my dream job.
Yeah, and he goes to like the actors who are alive, and you know, some of the filmmakers, and he did one on Roger Rabbit, and I rewatched it. Did you go back and rewatch that?
I didn't rewatch it because the first time I watched it, I
was jealous.
Very. I was like so pea green with envy looking at some of the stuff that he was able to touch, and I was just like, I cannot.
Yeah. No, I went back and I rewatched it, and it's just like so cool. And I'm sure that it kind of covers some of the stuff in the behind the scenes. But yeah, they have the window that Roger jumps out of, and it's just cool because he explains how they broke the glass and then they put it back together, and each individual like shard at the edges of Roger's silhouette had like little strings. So they had like a pulley, and they could only do it one time, and it's perfect in the movie. And then like the other one was the animator Andres Deja, who is one of my favorite from the Renaissance of Disney in like the 90s and late 80s. He was talking about how like there would be times when Bob Hoskins doesn't have the right eye line with Roger. So his fix of that would be to have Roger go up on his tippy toes. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's also one of my favorite things. One of my favorite bits of trivia from this movie is that at the beginning, when Bob Hoskins is leaving Maroon Studios and there's that pelican on the bike and he falls off the bike, it wasn't supposed to happen. They just couldn't figure out how to keep the bike upright. So the animators were like, we'll just draw him falling over. And that was just their fix. It was just, I mean, that's what's also insane funny about this is that you can't do reshoots when you're doing a movie like this because you're animating directly onto like the film. What's there is there. So the bike falls over. You gotta figure out what to do with it.
Well, and I love the idea of some poor lad going up to Michael Eisner like, hey, so we need another like $5 million to do reshoots, and he's like, absolutely not.
No.
Oh wait, let me think about it again. No.
And that's what was I was just gonna say about the when you get those like the mix of the animation with the live action stuff. I think my favorite part when you notice that is right at the very beginning when the Baby Herman cartoon, they cut the Baby Herman cartoon, and all of a sudden you realize that's a fake real refrigerator and a fake like those are things a human could touch interacting with an actual cartoon character. Like I think as a kid it really shocked me and blew my mind, and I don't know, maybe I'm still a kid because I still
see. I don't think that the opening works that well because it's like they're trying to do too much. And I know that that's kind of what Roger is as a character. Yeah. He's just too much and kind of obnoxious. But one of the great things about cartoons, whether you're talking about the really old, like pre-1950s Mickey Mouse cartoons or the Looney Tunes stuff, is they're kind of smart. Like, yeah, it's just, people falling down holes and running into walls, but ultimately like their pacing and everything, it is kind of intelligent the way they do it. And then like the opening of this movie is just so much at once that I don't know, I feel like I should be laughing more than I did, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. I don't think the cartoon at the beginning is meant to be like all that funny because I don't think I've ever laughed at the cartoon at the beginning. I think it's more of a trying to set up
building up
what Roger is, because as soon as that ends you realize Roger is definitely a people pleaser,
right?
Because he calls cut because Roger makes birds instead of stars, and he's following after the director like, I can do stars, and he just keeps hitting himself in the head over and over and over again trying to make stars. And I think that's really what the whole opening's for, is to really let you know that Roger is he's a professional, but he's still, just like in the book, he's kind of like second banana to Baby Herman.
See, you've seen this movie probably 200 times, so you're the expert on this episode.
Hi guys, I'm your Roger Rabbit expert. Come talk to me. And I think the other thing that's so interesting about this is that they ended up making an entire ride at Disneyland to Roger Rabbit, and at the time the film came out, there was no merchandise.
So stupid.
They did not merchandise this film at all. Probably because they blew all their budget. It's just like making the thing.
There's such a merchandising, I don't know, like, failure on the part of Disney, like, repeatedly. I mean, right now we are rewatching Clone Wars. I've mentioned that before, and Clone Wars is just like such a good TV show, but there's not much merchandise. And like, what are you guys thinking? Like, this needs to be merchandise out the wazoo.
Well, yeah, and you can even say the same about like Disney villains for a while had no merchandise. Like, great.
Yeah, now they're everywhere.
Yeah, I can buy as many Sleeping Beauty dolls as I want. My mom's favorite character is Maleficent. What are you going to give me? And don't give me any of that Angelina Jolie crap. I want the animated one.
Right.
I don't want those creepy cheekbones. I want a green-faced lady, and bring her to me now. And I think all of that is really funny, too, considering when what is now Hollywood Studios, which will forever be MGM Studios, when it opened, there was a whole back part, there's that back part of the park that was Roger Rabbit themed. Like, they had the steamroller, they had, the Marvin Acme themed boxes. Like, I can remember seeing that as a kid. They even had,
yeah, me too.
I can remember they did like a Roger Rabbit celebration parade at Magic Kingdom, and they had these big. Maybe I'm imagining it. I hope I'm not. I remember
I don't think
this.
You are.
They had like balloons
I think you're right.
that came off of the floats, like these big inflatable, kind of like Macy's Thanksgiving Day inflatable things. But it was like, I clearly remember Roger in a weird like king-shaped party hat.
Doesn't he have his like handprints in front of their Grauman's Theater?
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
And to do all of this, because MGM Studios opened like a year later, right? 89, to have all of that and still not market it, like so they stupid. Had what they did have was, when it came out on video, they had plush. They had like a plush doll of Roger, a plush of Benny the Cab, and I think some accessories like clothing or something. But that was basically it. And I think that's, considering what Roger has become now, I mean, there are so many women who try to emulate Jessica Rabbit. There are so, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to think back then that, Amblin and Disney didn't think 10 steps ahead, especially considering, Steven Spielberg had, E.T. dolls and stuff like that.
Right.
You think it won 3 Oscars. You could have at least given us a little bit more to buy at the store.
So you are the Roger Rabbit expert. Okay. I have a question.
Okay, let's see if I know the answer.
Did Eddie Valiant sleep with Betty Boop?
No.
I think he did.
I don't think he did.
But they know each other, and they're kind of flirty, and he's like, what are you doing here? When she's like, cigarettes? Like, I think they have a history.
They do have a history, but I don't think it's the sexual nature that you hope it would be.
What, you think that they're playing Parcheesi? Like, what do you think they're doing?
Well, because before Eddie's brother dies, they were the clowns, they were the cut-ups of their police force. That it's made obvious in that picture where they're the ones wearing the clown noses. That's the whole reason they were in Toontown, and that's the whole reason why a piano fell on his brother's head. Because they were doing a case in Toontown. Because that's what they used to, because they used to be actual cops, and that was their whole thing, was that they were the cops who patrolled Toontown. So he probably had a really good working relationship with everybody in Toontown, really, all of the Toons, because Yosemite Sam is the one who gave him the gun with the talking bullets.
I like, by the way, Yosemite Sam is one of my favorite lines when he goes, my biscuits are burning.
Yeah, that's smarts. And you know what? That's one part that I always found weird, because later on, like, you see Eddie pull out the pistol, and it's like, it says something about like, thank you for keeping me out of something or other, Yosemite Sam. Why didn't Sam say hi to Eddie at the beginning of the movie when he saw him?
Uh-oh. You drilling holes in this movie?
What's up with that friendship? Betty can say hi. Why can't Yosemite? What's up with that? But,
well, because I think Betty and him had a little boop boopy doop, if you know what I mean.
No, I'm firmly putting my foot down.
It's only because you don't want that image in your head, and unfortunately, I think it happened.
No, I don't think it did, because it's not a... They don't have the type of... Because I feel like Betty would be more jealous of Eddie staring at Jessica like all the other guys were in that club. I think
Betty's broken. She says, like, the reason why she's less popular is because they don't like the black and whites. They want, like, the colored, cartoons. Yep. So I think she's already living in this... I'm not good enough. So she's a broken woman. She's going to therapy
sad,
later.
Though. She's like, work's been a little bit slow since things turned to color, but I still got it. That's what she says. And then she goes, boop, boop, be-doo. But, like, that's besides the point. Do you want me to do the whole movie? I'll do the whole movie. Jesse, bring me my bunny ears. I'm working on my Roger Rabbit impressions.
You can believe what you want to believe, but I think I know the truth.
Stop it. I will say that...
I think they were playing patty cake in the old days, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. A little bit of that disappearing, reappearing ink. Gross. Here's a question for you, because you don't watch it as often as I do, so I pick up on a little bit more. Did you notice any of the foreshadowing with Judge Doom being a toon?
Well, this one I feel like I cheated a little bit, because when I watched the prop culture... Christopher Lloyd mentions how one of the big ones is that his cape is in the wind.
Yeah.
Even though there's no wind when he's inside. So that's like one of the nods that he's actually a toon.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest one. Yeah. There's a lot of small ones. There's also
tell me.
One of my favorite is when they're in the bar, the trolley bar, and Eddie knocks over the big barrel of dip when he takes Roger out. The Judge Doom is right in the front, and he's the first one pushing everybody back and pushing back as far as humanly possible so the dip doesn't touch his shoes. And it's one of those things that it's like, you might not even notice. But if you're a toon, you definitely don't want to touch the dip. Any part of you touches the dip, and you're gonna feel some pain. So I always thought that was like a very interesting thing to have him do, because it shouldn't.
But that's the kind of stuff that I miss from the book. Like, I love when you find out like the twist or who done it or whatever, and then you're able to rewatch it and you see those hints that you didn't pick up on the first time around that is completely missing from the book.
I mean, how crazy would it be if like the whole movie, let's say the whole movie, it's just Eddie and Roger trying to find out who killed Marvin Acme. No mention of Judge Doom at all until they get into Acme's
so
stupid facility. And they're like, who are you? And he's like, I'm Judge Doom, and this is my dip. And it's like, wait, what is happening?
See, and like, there's a little bit of that element where when Doom like explains his master plan and it's about like the freeway and stuff, like that rings more funny to me. Like, you had no idea, like, aside from the guy losing his job with the red cab or whatever, like, he like tells this freeway story, and I think it's just like taking that kind of like James Bond villain, this is my master plan, and spinning it on his head, and it's really funny. But then at the same time, that really did happen in California. So it's also taking this like historical accuracy and making it into a joke. Like, I'm all right with that. That's just like kind of silly in a good way.
Not silly in a Genie way.
No, not at all.
I don't know. There's just so much to really pick apart about this film, because I think it's a really perfect comedic film noir.
Right. Yeah.
Like an updated version of, like, the Maltese Falcon. And in this case, the Falcon is a white sheet of paper that Roger wrote a beautiful love poem on.
How do I count the ways?
1, 1,000, 2, 1,000. And Jessica in this, compared to Jessica in the book, it is a night and day difference, like we mentioned, and it is, the Jessica in the movie is so much better than the Jessica in the book.
Yeah. I love the Kathleen Turner voice, too.
Same. And she's not even credited in the film.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you watch the end credits, she's not credited as the voice of Jessica Rabbit at all.
What?
Yeah. They credit the singing voice of Jessica Rabbit, but not the talking voice.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't know why that is. I haven't found any information about that online at all. So if anyone knows why her credit is not in the credits, let me know. But the credits are long. It's probably like the longest credits I've ever sat through.
Oh, yeah. And I read that was a thing, too, that it was just like between being so expensive, but then mixing the live action with animation, that it was like the longest credits to date.
Yeah. Because you have every animator who's like basically ever animated. And then you've got the robot team, and then you've got this, and you've got that, and then you have the live actors, and it's like, oh my God, like, is it over? What is happening? Well, I'm glad we did this, though. I am glad we did this one.
No, it's a lot of fun.
I'm still so thrown by the book. I'm going to be 100% on it. I don't think, and this is interesting because I don't think the book, I don't think the film is a good adaptation of the book because the book wasn't
Agreed.
good. But I would be intrigued to read, there is a sequel. There's more than one.
Well, so he did like a pseudo sequel.
Kind of erased everything from the first book.
Yeah, it seems like, I don't mean to be offensive here or anything, but it seems like it's a little bit of a cash grab because the Disney movie was just so, well, Disney Amblin, whatever, was so, Touchstone, was so like popular that then he comes out with more of like a Disney-fied version. It's like, I think it's Valiant's memoirs or something? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
It's something where he tried to align the characters in his book more to what the movie developed them into. So now in his sequel, Roger has a speech impediment. And what I read about it, because I went on Goodreads and I was like, how can there be a sequel? At the end of the book, Roger's doppelganger disintegrated. Like, he is gone. Like, how can you continue that without it being considered a prequel without Eddie Valiant? Now, apparently Jessica Rabbit just dreamed everything in the first one. It's fake. I was like, that is so a genie in a teapot. Like, that is so...
I was going to say it's yet another easy out.
I feel like moving forward, just like we rag on Eat, Pray, Love, when there is something that doesn't make sense in a book, I'm just going to call it a genie in a teapot. Because that does not work for me.
That's a page to screen trope now.
Yeah. Hey guys, it's a genie in a teapot. But don't let him out, you guys. Don't let him out. He will shoot you. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I would read that. But there was supposed to be a sequel to the movie.
Right.
Which thankfully never got made. Like, I read what they were talking about for it, and no.
This is one where I am down if maybe it's not another adaptation of the book, but if someone wanted to do some sort of cartoon noir movie, like, I would be down for it. Yeah. I think that just sounds so fun and high concept that I am in for it. But unfortunately, the book just kind of doesn't pay off. So I don't know if doing another adaptation of the book makes sense. And I think that Who Framed Roger Rabbit, just with all the different licenses that you get and all the different creative people behind it, is a one shot. It's like you don't get another movie like this. And a sequel is just, that's risky.
Yeah, I don't think... I agree. I think that a cartoon, very dark film noir would be something I would definitely want to watch and definitely want to see. but I don't think it could include any characters that we know of now. It would have to be a completely new concept, a completely new idea, and could not involve any genies.
Right.
And I don't think anyone's going to... I don't know if anyone would want to take the time to do that, to create a whole new world with newly established cartoon characters, because that's what makes both the book and the movie really feel well-rounded, is like, we know who Dick Tracy is, okay? So when you mention him in the book, I have that understanding of Dick Tracy. I know who Betty Boop is. I know who Goofy is. You know, so when you see them in the movie, you have a grounding and an understanding, and you already have like almost a built-in fan base. To create a brand new cartoon that nobody knows, that nobody has met, and then try and put them into a situation that Roger was in, I don't know how it would go. And you can't just make a cartoon now and then make it into a film noir later and then have it be like a super fun cartoon and then all of a sudden a really dark murder.
Yeah, and there's silly parts to the movie that I just like they work so well in the movie. So like one of them is when Eddie Valiant and Roger are handcuffed together, you know, which is like the classic handcuff trope. And I always think of the 39 Steps, the Hitchcock movie, where they're handcuffed for like the majority of the movie. It's super funny. But when he's sawing through the handcuffs and he asks like Roger to keep it steady or whatever, and then Roger slips out of the handcuffs and holds the table. And he's like, "You're telling me you could do that the whole time?" And then Roger goes, "No, not at any time. Only when it was funny." Yeah. It's so funny. It's like it's mixing the detective adventure trope with this like stupid humor, and it just works.
It really does work. It's just so... And I love that it's Roger's getting firsthand knowledge of Eddie's career, and it's almost like Roger's giving Eddie information about his. You know,
right.
Where it's like, oh, yeah, okay, you're a detective, you handcuff the bad guys, you hide out in, you know, weird storerooms, cool. But here's what happens when you want to make someone laugh. Because that's Roger's whole thing, is just he wants to make people laugh. That's also, everything that happens in that bar cracks me up. When Roger sticks his eyes to the peephole and knocks over the salt shaker, like, that's hilarious. Shave and a haircut kills me every time.
I love the shave. The part that gets me with that is when Eddie is like watching it and he's kind of like, "Oh, there's no way it's gonna work," and then he turns around and Roger's freaking out.
Okay, he's like vibrating. He's just like. I love it. I love that. I love the guy in the bar makes a mention to Harvey. I'm like, that's hilarious. Yeah. He's like, yeah, I've seen a rabbit. It's right here, aren't you, Harvey? It's just like, I wanted nothing more. Every time I watch it, I want Judge Doom to just whack him in the face with a stick. It just makes me laugh. It's just so good. There's so many, that's what I mean. Like, there's so many little things in there that just, I don't think could work any other way.
Right.
I'm glad we sat in this. I'm glad we did this. It's just like a warm, fuzzy palate cleanser.
It is.
Yeah. And it had a happy ending.
Although, R.I.P. that cute little shoe that gets murdered.
Oh my, that's the one part that I hate watching.
I don't like that part.
I hate watching.
I don't like that part.
I hate watching that. And I cannot watch Doom. I can't watch Doom come back to life, and I hate when he is dying. And he's melting, just like the Witch and the Wizard of Oz, but he's going, wah, wah. I don't mean to laugh. It's very awkward, but it's just like, it's weird. His red eyes. And that voice. Oh my God,
his eyes are scary. I don't like them.
I don't like his eyes. I don't like his voice. I don't like Judge Doom. He's such a good character. Such a good character.
But I will say that it's like, who was he when the brother died? Is like, what?
Who was Judge
Is
Judy?
that like ever explained?
Kind of. He was the guy that he had committed a crime in Toontown and they were after him. And that was basically all we knew about him. But at least, they kind of mention that. So when he says it at the end, I'm the toon that killed your brother, it's not like, wait, Eddie Valiant had a brother? Like, you know what I mean? It's not thrown in there.
I'm a genie.
Yeah. Hey, Eddie, remember me? I'm the genie from the teapot. Like, no. Robin Williams shows up and is like, poof, what do you need? Poof, what do you need? And then he shoots everybody.
I am very jealous about Jessica's booby trap. I think all women should have a booby trap.
And see, that's another great thing that is so cartoony that they were able to throw into this movie. It's like the play on words.
I love the play on words.
Because you have the booby trap with Jessica, and you also have when Eddie is in Toontown and he's falling and he's with Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse, and he asks if they have a spare, and he goes,
I have a spare.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, but you're not gonna want it. And he's like, I do, and they give it to him, and it's a spare tire. But that's once again like the smart cartoon bits.
I love that kind of. I love the play on words.
Yeah.
Like that's just something that gets me every time.
It's just so well done. I mean, we could.
Yeah.
Once again, this is one of those things where I feel like we could just talk all day, just because I feel like you and I have such an appreciation for cartoons. I love tunes. But
well, and when Roger, the part when they're watching the news and he's like, I hate the news. I like cartoons, and like switches it over. I'm like, oh, hello, that's me.
Yeah. That's everybody. And the Goofy cartoon that they're watching is also one of my favorite Goofy cartoons.
I love that Goofy cartoon.
They used to show that at Casey's.
I miss. We always like, and somehow we always end up mentioning Disney somehow.
Yeah.
But at Disney World, they have the hot dog place in Magic Kingdom, Casey's Corner, and there used to be this little section where you can get your hot dog and your fries or whatever, and then go and sit on these like little, pseudo stands like at a baseball field or something, and you can sit there and eat your hot dog, and then they would have this like big TV that would show Goofy cartoons, and it was all the sports ones, and I miss it because it's gone now and they turned it into just like yet another store, a shop. Ugh. Lame.
Very. My childhood's gone. That's why I have to keep watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But I think we've come to the part that is the most hardest.
Most hardest.
It's the hardest part for me at the end of every episode when we do this. We have to do the book ranking.
Now, I feel like I might have a wrench I'm about to throw into this.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I thought about this. Have we been looking at the ranking the wrong way? I feel like we've been looking at it like our favorites to read and to watch, and maybe not the best adaptations. Because I hate to say it, but something like Eat, Pray, Love as a book to a film adaptation is technically a better adaptation than The Birds.
I do not want to move Eat, Pray, Love up from
I know you don't.
I don't know if we've been looking at it wrong. I think it's more of our personal opinions on it. I mean, I've been looking at it more as, would I go back to watch or read either of these again? And I think that's really how I've been looking at it, where it's like, would I and why, Yeah. And if that's how I'm looking at it, Eat, Pray, Love definitely stays at the bottom, because no and never. And like something like The Wizard of Oz, which we have currently in number 1, is definitely something I would go back and watch. I've done it 100 times. And
The Wizard of Oz is going to be a really hard one to top, because it's a good book, it's a great movie, and it's a really good adaptation.
Yeah.
It's like the triple threat. It's going to be a hard one for anyone to come in and top.
Yeah. I mean, if that's how we want to, I think maybe, we can go back through the list and take a look and see which ones were better adaptations.
I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily something that we have to go back and, reinvent the wheel, but perhaps it's something that we should keep, put the little feather in our hat.
I mean, I'm looking at the list now, and I think that even if you put into consideration if it's a good adaptation, I think our list is pretty solid. Maybe with the exception of the birds.
The birds is really the only one that kind of
because right now
crossing that line.
Right now, what we have on the book list is first place is The Wizard of Oz, second is High Fidelity, third is Still Waiting to Exhale, fourth was A Night to Remember, fifth was The Birds, sixth was Ready Player One, and seventh would have been so much better with a genie. Eat, Pray, Love.
Okay, I think I know where I would put Who Framed, but
I want to know where you would put it.
No, I want to know where you.
Tell me. No, because I went first last time. Tell me.
I feel like we might fight over this one. I would put it below A Night to Remember, but I think you would put it above A Night to Remember.
You would be wrong. I would also...
Really?
Yeah, I would put it in fifth place, honestly.
Wow.
Because of, if we're basing it off of the movie, of course I'd put it higher up on the list, but we're doing, the book and the film, definitely, the book is not something that I would recommend unless you're like a really diehard Roger Rabbit fan and you want to get a deeper understanding of what was before, what we have. And for that reason alone, I would bump it down to fifth place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for me, something like A Night to Remember, it's, not my favorite movie of all time or my favorite book of all time, but I can definitely see myself revisiting both.
Yeah.
And I think that it's also a pretty good adaptation. Whereas I will, in another decade, I will keep up my tradition of watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but I don't see myself rereading the book.
Yeah. I mean, there's no real point to, with the exception of some character names that were carried over and one line from the book that ends up in the movie.
Literally one line,
One line. I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Well, no. It's not that one. It's
the other one with Baby Herman.
Yeah, Baby Herman's line about having being a 35-year-old man but having a it's 1-year-old dinky or whatever.
Yeah. So there's two.
That one.
2 lines.
Is exact, but then the Jessica Rabbit one is slightly different because in the book she says, "I'm not bad, Mr. Valiant. I was just drawn this way." Whereas in the movie they cut out the Valiant because honestly it's a better line in the movie.
Yeah. So really, we just took two lines and a couple of names and threw it on screen with a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
So I think after A Night to Remember, definitely.
Wow. Okay, so we agree.
Yeah. So the book standings as of now would be Wizard of Oz, High Fidelity, Waiting to Exhale, A Night to Remember, Who Framed / Who Censored Roger Rabbit, The Birds, Ready Player One, and Eat, Pray, Love. I think that's good.
Woohoo.
All right. As we move out of my birth month.
Aww.
I know, I'm old. I'm so old, I got Moderna, y'all. As we move out of my birth month, we're entering into May, a beautiful month for mothers.
Aww.
And what better way should we, Christina, what's a good way to celebrate moms?
Well, I would imagine you would want a book written possibly by a daughter, just completely about her mother and their relationship.
You know, that sounds really
Is there
sweet.
anything that you think might, like, fit that kind of bill?
A book written by a daughter all about her mom and how her mom, I guess, really shaped her life, huh?
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, it rings a little bit of a bell. Maybe a little, Mommy Dearest.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
I am so ready.
I need an air horn.
Yeah.
Now, Mommy Dearest is a movie that I have seen many, many times, and the book I have read once. And I am very excited to reread the book because it's like candy. Like
It is drama. It is literally drama for your mama. And I hope that our Mommy Dearests appreciate the fact that we're spending May celebrating them. Because let's get real. I love you, Mommy Dearest.
Aw. Well, and the first time I watched Mommy Dearest was with my mother, so that works out.
I watch Mommy Dearest every Mother's Day, so.
Yeah,
What does that say about me?
I don't make it a point to watch it every Mother's Day, but it's definitely a movie I watch probably once every year and a half.
Yeah. Oh, I am so. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, break out your red lipstick, hide your wire hangers.
Ooh.
Ooh. Or, come on. Hey, Tina, get the axe. We're doing this. Get ready, because that's all the episode's gonna be.
Oh, God. Are you just going to call me Tina for a while?
Tina!
Get me the axe.
Oh, my goodness. I'm so ready. I want to do it now, but we can't. So, with that, I don't know. I guess, as they say in the tunes, that's all, folks.
I mean, that's a perfect ending. I don't know how to add to that. Cut. Right there, cut.
Oh, Christina, thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to this book. And just joining me on this Toonie journey today.
Aww.
Yeah. And thanks again to Jessie. Boop.
Jessie.
Yeah. For making us sound so good. Sounding good. He's dancing. He's very excited.
Aww.
He loves it when we give him a shout out. But yeah. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Christina. And we will be back with Mommy Dearest.
Thank you, Nikki and Christina.
Don't look at the man behind the mic.
You heard nothing. Oh, you know what? I think that's a perfect ending. So, bye.
Bye.